All right. Welcome to Beats, Beds, and Browns. I'm your host, Joe Skibby. This is your spot for emerging hip hop artists, garden interests from homestead to commercial agriculture, and bourbon and whiskey distillers. We're pleased to be transitioning to live stream interviews in this, our third season, allowing us to interview talented folks from throughout the globe. Our focus will always be Chicagoland and the region. There's so many talented individuals and interests out there to cut it up with, we figured why not expand. Let's not forget our mission to distribute 100,000 heirloom seed kits over the next 10 years. We want to introduce people to growing their own food and realizing how easy it is to get started. Whether you've got acres or just a balcony, you can start growing your own food. Tap into our social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Beats Beds Browns. And make sure to subscribe on YouTube to get notified of our content releases. And please participate in the comments section throughout our content. We want to hear from you. Happy planting, and thanks to those of you joining us after the live taping. Without further ado, I'd like to bring Frida with Faith Farms to the screen. Frida Graves, thanks for joining us this evening. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
A little bit about Faith Farms. It started 9 years ago, the corner of 656 Carolina Street. Nothing but the remnants of abandoned buildings. In its current state, it's filled with peach trees, cucumbers, rows of greens, chickens, ducks, and even a herd of goats. Faith Farms has become a peaceful oasis in Gary's Emerson neighborhood. And after almost a decade, acre and a half urban farm is just getting started. Not only talking the talk, but walking the walk. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me this evening, Joseph. I'm so glad to be here. First and foremost, I have to first say I am filling in for our CEO, Pastor Curtis Whitaker Sr., because he had an event that he could not get away from. So I'm just going to do a little overview. You started the overview for Faith Farms, but I'm going to go a little bit deeper. Faith Farms was started in Gary, Indiana, an urban farm, which is very unusual for us. We don't have very many of urban farms. We have growers and gardeners and people that are doing grow beds, but this is an actual farm. It was started 9.5, almost 10 years ago. And I've been at Faith Farms for close to 9 years. And it started with a vision that Pastor Curtis had. We need to know where our food comes from. We need to grow our own food. He had a vision that we would have a famine at some time. And we know from COVID with supply and demand, we got pretty close to having some things that were missing. So he thought that we should be able to grow our food and know where our food came from and repurpose, if you will, land that we had. It was an abandoned house on this land next to the church. And they started growing with 2 garden beds, just 2 garden beds. That's it at the first year. And I'm not going to do the whole long story, but I'm going to do the short story. And then there were 4 garden beds. And eventually we expanded to hoop houses, which all volunteers helped us put together the hoop houses. And then we expanded to the animals, the chickens first, which I was like, oh, chickens, okay. The goats. Okay, all right, goats. I'm like really not used to that. And then ducks. So you can imagine in Gary, Indiana, which we're an urban area, that's very unusual to see because people see us not only having the goats, but we take them out and actually herd them down the street and let them eat the weeds and things that are growing to beautify the area. So I'm going to try okay, I'm a nurse by trade, a farmer by choice. Let me put it that way. Now a master gardener because when I came into this growing thing, I didn't know how to grow anything. And I wasn't even sure I wanted to do it, but Pastor Curtis
you urban farm, you're off the expressway. There's a steel mill on one side. You got the base of the baseball stadium. You guys are a stone's throw from that and actually in a residential area. But
Correct. And that's the thing that we have to be really cautious about getting our soil tested. And we don't grow directly in the ground because of what we have around us. We actually put mulch and we grow on top of mulch and things like that to put a barrier between the ground and what we're growing. So, we have to be really cautious about that. And the water, we do a lot of water sampling, a lot of soil sampling because we want to grow healthy food and grow it in a healthy way. So, that is off the expressway. And a lot of people see it and they drive past and they see those goats and it's just showstopper. We could just put some cameras out there and just watch people as they do watch the goats. But Go on, continue.
I was just going to say, and it's really an oasis now. You've got houses, you've got, like you said, the animals, the chickens in the center of it. You've got the goats off in a pen, and then your own permaculture forest on top of the different raised beds.
Correct. Sorry, that was correct. That was our new baby this year. And I'm walking around just amazed. That was Corey Hellberg that had taken some permaculture training, and he asked us if we could be the first ones that he did the permaculture forest, he called it. I was like, oh, okay. And it's really amazing. I mean, the things that we just see amazing. And we have the grow pot, our hydroponic grow pot, which is new for us this year.
It's an amazing array because, permaculture, right? So permanent agriculture. These are things that are going to produce fruit year over year with minimal maintenance, minimal watering. Potentially they're tiered usually. And then you've got the grow areas that are going to be turned every year with different produce. And like you mentioned, the soil maintenance. And then the animals are kind of interacting all within it. And so I believe you guys are USDA certified farm and orchard, right? So talk to me about what that presents in terms of challenges managing on site and the animals.
So that was when I started, probably a year and a half into my starting there. Because I'm amazed that I'm always with the food is medicine thing, but I'm trying to explore and see ways that we can elevate the farm. Of course we want the farm. So I did some research into getting USDA certified, and I went out there and then we did the mapping and we had to do all the measurements and they had to take all the soil samples and make sure everything was good. And after probably about 7 to 8 months, they gave us the certification. We do organic practices, but we're not organic certified. That's quite an extensive process. We've had the organic and pest management people come out and tell us what we need to do. We are PSA certified. We do produce safety measures. So yeah, it's quite extensive with the USD certification. That helped us as well when we're going to do grants to have our farm and track number and all those kind of things, because we kind of sustain ourselves some kind of way right now. Eventually, we would like to get away from the grant process, period. But that's not possible right now because you know what area we're in. We're pretty, the area is kind of, the average household income annually is like $15,000 in that area. So that's a lot of things that we cannot at this point break away from the grant process. But eventually, that's what we want to do. But right now we have, go on, Joseph.
Well, I was just going to say, and the diversification is how you're planning to do that with hydroponics, and you guys are operating a CSA, and you guys have you're selling commercially, you're buying for commercial distribution as well. So you guys are really kind of approaching this from all angles. Can you talk about all the different ways that you guys are trying to monetize the farm?
Absolutely, we have so many projects going. I don't know where to start. Okay, so first and foremost, you mentioned that we grow. And we sell from the farm. We do farmers markets. We do our community supported agriculture. That's once a month. As a matter of fact, we did our last box today. We also are part of the LFPA program. That is Local Food Promotional Assistance Program. We started that this year. We have a fresh frozen facility. It's like 98.9% done.
I remember the tour at the beginning of summer. It's a real fine spot you guys have there. And that's one of its only within 50 miles, right? It's the only flash freeze facility. How is that going to benefit the community and you guys as you look to distribute more?
So that is actually it will be a distribution site, and then we'll be able to connect with schools and restaurants and universities and nursing homes, all kinds of things, create more jobs. That's job creation. That's economic stability. So we're bringing economics back into the area by bringing jobs to the area, tax base, all kinds of things. But it's just amazing. Indiana University Northwest did the study for us, and they're the ones that came up with, we're the only ones within a 50-mile radius. We didn't go out further, but you just think about it. I call it Faith Farms Bird's Eye. That's what I call it. I said we're going to be freezing vegetables and selling them out. So we're bringing that money back into the community. We're adding more and elevating more in different projects. The new ag, which is the new urban ag generation, those are the youth that we taught this summer. We taught 50 this summer
to be master gardeners in horticulture and trained in horticulture careers.
Yes, yes. And then the way it's working, we're training to be the master gardener, but some of the curriculum that we built curriculum around that because urban is a little bit different than rural growing. So there's some disparities that we face that you don't face in the
Talk
rural
about
area.
some of those, yeah.
So first of all, we have disparities of revenue to be able to do anything. We have disparities of health in this area because we have the war, in the African American community, there's a higher incidence of diabetes, cardiovascular disease, things like that. And then in some of the educational aspects are kind of lacking. So if we can get the children out there and give them a different kind of education, which is hands-on, because if you look at farming, we know that science and math, but if you look at the grow pot, that's science, technology, engineering, and math. Yeah. So our goal is to get to the point where we're actually doing classes out of the grow pots, working with the schools. We've worked with schools before, 21st century. We've worked with Thea Bowman. We've worked with Glen Park Academy. So we've worked with schools before. So why not bring, and then I don't want to say that the children are not interested in what's going on in the school, but they're more interested in when they're learning hands-on. They're learning science, math, engineering, and technology, but they're learning hands-on at the same time. And then on top of that, we were actually giving them a 6-week internship where they got paid $15 an hour, 9 hours a week. So now they're bringing revenue into their families and helping with food disparities and helping with everything else, as well as learning how to. We had classes on entrepreneurship. We had the police chief there. We call them enrichment classes. We had classes on art. They were all within that program, as well as them getting paid to work in that program.
So you're paying salaries, you're teaching the horticultural and ag career, and you're sharpening the sword completely and teaching some of the finer arts, entrepreneurism.
Absolutely. And then to top it off, we're developing relationships with certain universities, land-based universities, that are now looking at offering continued careers in agriculture as they graduate, going into the full scholarships. Because a lot of these kids now, they never heard of food science before they came into the class, the new ed program. They never heard of the pH in the soil, the grow zones, and all the science of it. Now they're getting more and more interested. So it just advances what we're trying to do.
And just needed exposure. And, to be honest, I took a tour of the grow facility in the trailer. That is a really cool piece. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So it is a Greenery S. How that came to be is Broadway Loft on Broadway, the new building on Broadway. We had a relationship with Broadway Loft, and we went into an agreement with them where they would build a greenhouse for Faith Farms when they finished the building. So COVID hit, things went crazy. Their budget kind of went whack-a-mole because the things that used to cost, I'm just going to throw a number out there. Things that used to cost $500 for 20 pieces of wood or something was now $3,000. So by the time they got finished with the building and all, meeting all that they had to meet as far as the qualifications, they didn't have enough money to build the greenhouse, but they had enough money to purchase the Greenery S. So that's how that came about. And we still have a relationship with Broadway Law. Well, I went down there and I explained to some of the people there that they can come volunteer at the farm and learn how to grow, and grow something in the Greenery S. So it's building a relationship between the participants at the Broadway Loft, as well as building a relationship between the children that are learning how to grow STEM, or anybody in the neighborhood that wants to come out and volunteer and learn how to grow hydroponically, because I had to learn it. I still haven't taken all the training. It's quite extensive training, but learn how to grow hydroponically, and you can grow 2 acres of food in that thing, and lettuce grows in 2 weeks. Yeah. 2 weeks you can grow heads of lettuce.
And that's all false lighting, like under the grow lights and cycle water system.
Right.
Completely indoors and covered too. Yeah.
Completely indoors and covered. So we can grow in the winter. So there you go. We're going to be able to grow in the wintertime because, around here in our area, sometimes even with the hoop houses, you can grow some things, root vegetables, maybe, a few collard greens, but this will be able to grow a lot. And it's just fascinating. I mean, now I've learned about the light show, because before I just cut the lights on, but now I learned how the grow lights work and all those kind of things like that. It's just something fascinating for our city. It's some things we don't get to see all the time in this city, and things like this, to me, it just blows my mind and warms my heart that we're out here being able to do these things.
Well, and I've been fortunate to take a couple tours, and it's not a quiet place. There's always activity. There's always movement. There's kids. There's elders. There's people working the farms. There's people coming for tours. It's a vibrant space. It really is.
And you can just feel the warmth out there. Not only, and I don't know, I know you're a grower, but to me, gardening is peace. Going out there, just walking on the farm is peace. And we always talk about people's mental health. So why not gardening? Some of the people that we were looking at, some of those in connection to the mental health, depression and anxiety and all those kind of diagnoses that they put on the mind. But we're still exploring how we can implement something into the farm that where people can come out that are having issues with depression, anxiety, but without going over, we don't want to go too deep into their diagnosis, because then you're in the HIPAA profile and things like that. But there's so many things that we're doing out there beyond the fresh frozen and the new egg and the beehives, the honey. Food is medicine is a big one that we're doing right now. We're working on cardiovascular disease. And right now, the food is medicine is it's good for 18 months. And it's through the Indiana Department of Health. And right now we have 75 participants, and they get a medically tailored meal 7 days a week. And we have to get the referral from their physician. They take it to the physician. The physician sends a diagnosis over. It has to be cardiovascular right now. And they send it over, and then they get the chef prepared. We're working with Chef Tim Bellamy. He's the chef. And then we have a nurse practitioner, nurse educator, where they get a nurse practitioner, nurse educator class every other Saturday. Totally at no cost to the participants. Totally at no cost. We even deliver in some cases. Wow. Because people cannot get out. They don't have access. Even with that meal, we found that we were thinking it would be 10% of the people we would have to deliver to. No, it's more like 70. Because they don't have access even to get down to the farm to get the meal. But in my mind, that does several things. It not only helps them, we have people losing weight already, lab work is better, blood pressures are better, but it helps them to save. If you're looking at $10 a day, $70 a week, that's $280 a month. Over the course of 6 months, that's over $1,600 that they're able to put back into food, fight food insecurity, or pay a bill that was hanging over their head. And that helps their mental capacity, so it helps their physical capacity. So it's all connected with farming and growing. And a lot of the food comes from us.
And that is really a comprehensive program, because you go to a mobile food depository or a food bank, and maybe you get what has been freshly produced, sometimes not even, sometimes processed food. And maybe you get a giant rutabaga and you're like, what do I do with this? Right. So the recipes actually tell you how to prepare it. It's chef prepared, as you mentioned, and really putting, a need-based element into those people's hands. And like you said, changing their life. So that's phenomenal.
Yeah. When we got that grant from Indiana Department of Health, Pastor Curtis and I sat down, and we had a lot of meetings and a lot of thought went into organizing that.
Oh, we got Frida frozen up a little bit. Remind you to visit beetsbedsbrowns.com.
Because
it's your free
seed. We've dealt
kit.
with giving even a CSA box. I got that in there. You're freezing up, Joseph. I can't hear you.
Yeah.
What did you say?
No, I was just advocating for our beetsbedsbrowns.com. Get a free seed kit. You can select from pumpkin, acorn, squash, or dill. I just jump right into a pitch as soon as the screen freezes, but I think we're back both in live space right now. So please continue.
Okay. I was just continuing to talk about the Food is Medicine program, but it's just a wonderful program that people are able to take advantage of. We've already had so many testimonies from that. And then we have another one coming up that's also Food is Medicine, but with that one, I get a $40 produce box a week for 2 years. So it's several programs we got coming up to be able to try and help people and fight some of the food disparities and health disparities. Because in my nursing mind, the first minute I stepped out into the farm, when I see oregano, that's for your respiratory system, and thyme, that's an antifungal, and things like that go through my head. And I just know that we can help people that way. So that's what I was saying.
Food used to be medicine, right? Everything that you grow in the garden, every herb is a laundry list of benefits and things that it can address. And we've, as a nation, gotten away from those things that are all beneficial, and all the benefits that you speak of, and the mental wellness and the health and the community really is what we find when we're in the garden getting our hands dirty. So
yeah, that's where we're heading back that way though. It's becoming more and more prevalent to people.
So you talked about the new ag, the next urban ag generation program, and I know you guys had roughly 25 students this year. Talk to me about the future of that program and what that looks like moving forward.
Actually, we had 50.
This year was 50? Okay.
Mm-hmm. It was the first year we had 25. This year we had 50. For the new urban ag generation, and the actual name of the program is JUMP, Junior Urban Master Producer, and the new urban ag generation is the curriculum. There was curriculum created by myself and some other instructors that have been gardening for years. We felt it would appeal to the youth in this area. So we have to change some things around, some wording around, so it have a better understanding of the gardening process. So they take a 6-week program. They come 6 weeks every Saturday. That obviously they want to do it because they were there for the training, for the learning. And part of the learning is, of course, in the classroom setting, but part of the learning is hands-on. They go outside and learn hands-on. After the 6 weeks, then they are then placed in an internship, which will be 9 weeks long, I believe. No, 9 hours a week for 6 weeks and $15 an hour. So we divided them up this year. So we had 25 and 25, but it was 50 total. The next year coming up, Pastor Curtis has already announced, and we're working on it now, the new curriculum. The curriculum will be more advanced, more science, of course, but more things related to business, entrepreneurship, how to handle a business, tax basis if you have a business, because we're looking for the children. Now, we've been doing the smoothies for 2 years. We're looking to open a smoothie kids where they have their own business. And we will have the teenage youth managers. Of course, there'll be an adult there. There's got to be an adult with each shift. And the young stars will be the customer service. So we already did some entrepreneurship pieces because, Pastor Curtis being an accountant, that's unavoidable. Yeah. You guys need to know how to make your own money, how to run your own cost and effect and things like that. So we almost had a building this year where they can have their own freestanding building and do their smoothie kids. And they're writing the recipes and they're writing the nutrient values in there. And they're going through just how to read labels and what do we put on there. And so it's been very interesting. And beyond that, just the fact that they can learn from permaculture. Corey came out and talked to him about permaculture. Arborist came out, Ryan. We had the police chief, like I said. We had artists out there. We had advocacy. Learn how to advocate for yourself, because what happens is these kids, they don't learn about legislative process and how we have local governments and higher governments and things. All those kind of things were important, but they learned all this as well as just learning how to grow in the nutrients and the pH level. So that will go on again next year with 100 students.
That's an amazing program. Again, the campus, right? As you have the farm, and is that limited in terms of how much you can grow, or is there area that can grow into? Because I know there's other land uses for some of that other property.
Well, yeah, right now we're looking to expand. We really have that little 1 acre right there across from the farm that is already been designated for the pollinator park. And with that, that's even amazing. The fact that Purdue Lafayette came down and they looked at that park in the agriculture landscape class, 17 renderings from them of the park, how the park can be. And we took the top 3 and the kids voted on it, and they voted on the top 1. So we're still in phase 1 of that one. We're seeking out more revenue to get to phase 2. And we actually might have had enough to do phase 2, but like I said, COVID hit just as we got it, and all the supplies just went up so much in price that we ran out of funding. So we're trying to do stage 2, and we're looking to make that stage 2. We're looking to make a stage where they can have open mic or teach classes or anything, just to make it a community with benches and art and things like that. So that's another thing that we're working on. And then there's the business incubator that we're working on as well, a wrapped around business incubator with first year services of accountants and marketing and for new businesses, marketing, accountants, lawyers. So they have these wraparound services for free their first year to be able to make their business a success. And then so I think I gave you LFPA 2 is another grant that we are working on. We are the leaders on that. And that's over 27 counties of growers, BIPOC growers, to be able to advance and advance their business and help them with BIPOC fellowships and things along that line, and buy for them, so their business can grow. So we got like 10 fingers and 10 different projects, and I don't have the 11 fingers. So
I was going through all the acronyms and trying to understand what each of them meant. I do think we've covered all of them. And again, just talk about the focus in Gary and keeping the funds in Gary and educating the community within Gary and building within Gary.
Absolutely. We want to build capacity within Gary. We have relationships with, and people don't realize how many growers there are actually in Gary, because there's more than they know. Because
I don't know if you're like 23 farms or something, isn't there?
Yeah. People just don't realize. I was with Lake County Eats Local years ago. I started the first year, and people just didn't realize when I went out there. I didn't realize how many growers there are actually in Gary. So if you can imagine if you can capacity build within our own community. Food being $1 trillion business, if we could bring some of that back, economic stability back to this area by hiring people, advancing firms, and getting our stuff in the grocery stores. Of course, you're gonna have to have the safety checks and everything, which is feasible. With getting our stuff in the grocery stores and being able to build capacity and actually make a living out of farming. We have one more project that we're trying to work on, and that's the tiny home village. Yeah. And within that village, there's right now we're working with trying to get seniors, but there's seniors that hate those high rises and things. If we can get that tiny home village, we want a grower them to grow something in each of their yards. So you're making a growing agriculture zone per se. And within the agriculture zone, they can have their own farmers markets and sell food back and still have economic stability. And I forgot to mention that we're also, because of climate change, we're working on a microgrid system. And right now we're halfway there to building a relationship with the city of Gary to put microgrids on some of the seniors' homes so they can restructure their homes, so that will help with their NIPSCO bills, and we can help upgrade their homes, electrify their homes and things like that. So
is that because solar? Or?
Solar.
Yeah.
Solar. Mm-hmm. Because the church is already solar power. Yeah. So we went on solar power already. So we're aware of our carbon footprint. We're aware of all these things. It's so many things that need to be done that we need to catch up on, because in this area we initially didn't have the ability to catch up on. But there's so many things that we're working on. I don't even know where to stop. I mean, we could be. I don't know how long your show is, but we could be 3 hours talking about some of the things that we want to get done in this area. And it's not for accolades or to put our name out front. We just want to see, we love our city, and we want to see better things done inside our city. So and it's getting there. It's getting there.
Well, I applaud you and Pastor Whitaker and the entire community in lifting yourselves up. And I think as I was doing research, Pastor Whitaker, the blight to light, right? And as people identify with blight, they start to feel that way inside. And my next question is really, have you met any resistance? There's so much overwhelming positivity coming from the community, within the growing community throughout the region in Gary, where there may be a little resistance to change. Have you guys run into any complacency at a minimum?
Have we run into complacency? Not so much from the citizens themselves, but from some of the, you have to have a revenue stream to do some of these things. For some of the places that were issuing the revenue stream, they had, can we trust them to do the right thing, or can we? Is Gary going to do the right thing if they get this revenue stream? But I always tell people, the grants, we're not going to jail. If you give us a grant, we're going to do exactly what those grants say. I've never been to jail, and I'm Pastor Curtis never been to jail. So I always tell people, what are you going to do? We're not going to go to Dubai with it. We're here to make things better. we were trying to make things better when we didn't have these grants. When sometimes we had to come out of our own pocket to buy animal food. So we're not going to, now that we have things to make it better, we're not going to do anything. But I haven't missed from the citizens. No, I mean, the people in Gary are very loving and they're very cool. I mean, there might be a few people to give you a side eye, but for the most part, 98%, no, we have not. But from the people to just given the revenue stream or the funding, somewhat, I can say somewhat honestly. But we just have to, we just keep pushing ahead, forging ahead.
That's anything, right? Any path you're on, there's going to be obstacles, and that's kind of your challenges as a leader within the organization to meet those challenges and lead through them. Another crazy statistic: 15,000 pounds of food grown.
Yes, and we're going to have 25,000 with this grow pod next year.
Oh, so, my goodness. Unbelievable. And you said 10% given to those in need, 20% to garden volunteers, and 70% to local farmers and residents.
Yeah. Look, I always when I tell the story, when Pastor Curtis and I sat down years ago and we were mapping out the business plan and how it was going to work, we had it turned around. We were like 70% we'll sell to sustain ourselves, and 20% we'll give to volunteers, and 10% to the community. Well, it was backwards. 70% we were giving away. 20% we were selling, and 10% we were giving back still to the volunteers. But it's getting a little better now because I think we've been in this for so long, for 10 years. And you really, in your heart, you shouldn't think it should take 10 years to get here, but you have to keep going. But it's getting better now. So I say right now we're probably selling about 40%. So,
and to be honest, as an ag producer, as an ag reseller, what I'm learning in all of our research and in other interviews we do, if you don't have that breadth of options and opportunities, then it's very hard to be just a market farmer and break even or even make profit. It's very hard to be a producer or a reseller. It's very hard to just be an ag tourist representative. You have to be doing all of those things because some ebb and flow throughout the year. Some years are better than others. We're all dealing with different bacteria, fungus, insects year over year. And it's challenging to be a grower. And that's, I think, where the community really relies on each other and themselves. And I applaud you guys and what you're doing. It really is dynamic on all fronts. And the tour alone was enough to impress me. And, every time I talk to you, I learn a little bit more. So I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on. I can't talk about this enough because it's in my heart. And now farming is in my heart. And when I first came out of there, I ran from bees, but I go to the beehives now with the best of them to help get the honey out. I'm not afraid anymore. So
and are you still in the nursing profession, or is this taken over entirely? Or?
It's taken over entirely. Yeah. I didn't even renew my license last time. So I'm a farmer.
Yeah,
I say retired nurse by choice, a retired nurse by trade, and a farmer by choice. It's taken over entirely. It's taken over entirely. So
absolutely. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap. I'm going to take you out of the studio, close the show, and then I'd like to talk to you for a couple minutes before we conclude.
Okay, thank you so much, Joseph.
All right, Frida Graves from Faith Farms. Thank you so much for your time and your insights. We really appreciate it. We're excited to announce our final interview of this year, a mulligan, if you will, with Jesse Zion of Two Eagles Distillery in Mount Prospect. You may notice we have a missing week in our weekly content. Yours truly forgot to hit the go live button, and the entire conversation with Jesse was lost into the ether. Jesse has been kind enough to agree to a second interview where I'll be sure to hit the go live button on November 8th at 7 p.m. Stay tuned to our social for more details. And again, let's not forget our mission to distribute 100,000 heirloom seed kits over the next 10 years. We want to introduce people to growing their own food and realizing how easy it is to get started. Whether you've got acres or just a balcony, you can start growing your own food. Get your free seed kit at www.beetsbedsbrowns.com. You can currently choose from pumpkin, dill, or acorn squash. Get it while it's hot. We have other seeds that we're saving and drying currently. As always, gently press the subscribe button. Tap into our social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Beets Beds Browns. And please participate in the comments section throughout our content. We want to hear from you. I'm Joe Skibby, and this is Beets, Beds, and Browns. Thank you.